Meeting resumed. Next, Dr. Junius Ho. 5 minutes. I just want to know a bit more. Now that the Commission Children has been established for 2 years, even though we have yet to create this directorate position, well, we don't have to wait for him. For the past 2 years, it had been without a directorate officer leadership. Have you had any meetings? And can you tell us that you can't carry on without them, or you've been doing a lot in the past 2 years and waiting for them to take forward? And you claim that you have a lot of smart people in the commission, and for those or agencies who really cared about children. So the commission itself is the focus. The director officers really him to assist. Well, in your letter to Mr. Shukacher, it's equally important because you have to lead a dedicated policy team. So I want to clarify, is the commission being the steering hand, or you being steered ahead? Or can you tell us that the commission can carry on without this person? Or you need to do a global recruitment. The whole commission have been waiting for a full 2 years. If we don't create this position today, then we simply can't carry on. Well, I don't seem to hear that. Can you help us understand a bit more? Deputy Secretary. Thank you, Dr. Ho's question. Well, we are in a dilemma. Just now, Dr. Ho mentioned, well, you have been without this position for 2 years. Well, I had mentioned in the past 2 years, well, the commission have a general meeting every 3 years, and there's supposed to be 4 working groups. Due to manpower constraint, we only created 3. And those 3 working groups meet every 3 months. Though we're the commission without a directorate officer, well, the work in 4 areas to try to take forward as much as we can. Well, the biggest obstacle for the past 2 years, well, we're able to take forward this work without a direct officer because the policy bureau have a direct officer currently wearing both hats. Actually, it's a colleague sitting next to me. So it had a very heavy workload himself. In paragraph 9 on the document, and it's noted that the Principal Assistant Secretary Welfare 1 so it helped to monitor the land planning of the social welfare sites and monitor the planning of welfare facilities and help the social welfare department to enhance the lump sum grant sufficient system, and the social welfare advisory committee secretarial support provided by him, and a lot of the funds were also managed by him and his colleague for a very long time. But this colleague have been working overnight all the time and with very long hours. So we earnestly hope that the LegCo can approve the creation of their position. And also to make sure the work of the Children's Commission be smoother and quicker, and the colleagues do no longer required to wear 2 hats. I understand. Mr. Shukacher, 4 minutes. Well, I think, well, it seems that it was a very nice paper. Well, at page 4, it claims that the vision ensured that Hong Kong is a place that cared of listen to children and cares about children's livelihood. Well, that's how I would have written it.
What happened afterwards? What has the government done to protect children's rights? What has been done to listen to children's voice? Outside the schools, children held their hands to express their concerns, and then policemen arrested them. Children went shopping in Mongkok with their parents, and the police officers did not ask any questions before arresting the parents. Children sang in schools, and then it is said that this should be prohibited, and then arrests were made by the police, and now we have the national security law. What is ironical is that the children's rights, the children's welfare, and also the vision of the Commission has been departing farther and farther. And we are told about the framework, and this framework, indirectly or directly, has led to the arrest, the undue arrest of children, and also their voices being suppressed. When was their voice heard? Why can't the government allow children to directly take part in Commission on Children, as stated in the International Convention? Just now, the Secretary said that in the past, well, children sat upright in taking part, but now they can take part in different ways. Well, I agree to some parts and I disagree to some parts. Actually, very often comments are made in the form of children's lexical. I also think that views can be expressed in diversified ways, not necessarily by means of papers. Now, the two approaches can exist together and can be done together. It is not that there is no solution right now, and it is not that there is no consensus. It is just a matter whether you offer opportunities, and do you want to open the door to children so that they can join the council and express their own views. Thank you. Chairman, I hope Mr. Seal will not misunderstand my answer. We do not rule out any format or method to engage children so that they can express their views. At the end of November last year, the Commission on Children organized a large-scale exchange session, and at that time, 50-odd different organizations and their representatives attended that exchange session. During that time, there was enthusiastic discussion. Just now, Mr. Seal said there can be different ways for children to voice up. So after taking on board those comments, well, at first, the plan was that in Q1 this year, for children with special needs, an engagement session was planned to be organized. However, because of the epidemic, that plan was deferred. However, there was discussion about the format. So in the coming quarter, we will arrange. With this experience in engaging children, we will continue to do more and better. Mr. Yip Kin Yun, 5 minutes. Chairman, many members attach importance to children's rights. Children's development is an important area in our society, and we agree that there should be a commission on children. And if this commission can have more concrete powers, then that will be better. Definitely, we support children's policies. The question is, we need good policies on children, and we need people to promote this matter. So how should we solve this problem about chicken and egg? before this position is created, well, in the past years, the commission was established. However, we have not seen any concrete work performance. And you said that you need a person to do the work. Without work performance, how can we believe that you can perform well with this position? So I think this is a very thorny issue regarding chicken and egg. So I think first of all, you need to convince us that the government has a vision and a policy intent, and also a concrete implementation plan. And what is more important is a sincere heart. Then I think that will be willing to help with resources. One member of the commission, Mrs. Choi So-Suk-yin, had written an article. She said, Hong Kong needs macro children's policies. 2 years ago, she wrote to point out 2 critical areas. 1, there's a lack of children's policies. Number 2, there is a lack of supervising or coordinating organization. The situation has not improved. There is no complete children's policy. And so concerning children's well-being, there is a lack of long-term and clear goal. Now, I will not continue to read this article, but I think this is a very objective and accurate assessment, which many people agree to. In the past year, regarding children's rights, did the government really give a lot of importance, or is it being suppressed when the Secretary for Education wrote to schools and parents saying that children in schools had better not say anything? Otherwise, there will be very serious consequences. So they are not allowed to take part. We are not listening to young people and children's voices. Last year, the police abused the order on protection of children to arrest a few children. As a result, they were imprisoned for quite a long time, and they were forced to be separated from their family members. And one teenage girl was detained in prison for 27 days. This is really an alarming situation. And up till now, did the police face any consequence in this kind of abuse? Has the government given any account? These are some very basic matters. However, we are still not given a clear account. So now the government asked for creation of this new position. Now the secretary is not here. The CS4A is not here. This commission is under him. So how can you convince us that this position should be created? Any response, please, from the government? Deputy Secretary, Chairman, thank you, Mr. Ip, for the comments. I will try my best to explain our proposal as clearly as I can. Regarding the vision, I think it is in line with what the member just said. The Commission on Children has the vision about listening to children. As regards the scope of work, as such as now, there are a few areas: policy coordination and formulation, Central Children's Database development, promotion and publicity, stakeholders engagement, and a development subvention scheme about children's welfare. So in the past 2 years, we had been working hard in all these areas. Just now, Mr. Ip referred to Mrs. So. She is one of our non-official members, and Mr. Ip just quoted her comments. In the meeting, we heard her comments about a complete children's policy. Because of that, we hope to get LegCo's support as soon as possible to create this directorate grade position, so that in terms of policy coordination, policy formulation, and implementation and promotion, we can do a better and faster job. Mr. Ho Kwan Yew, 4 minutes. Deputy Secretary, next to you is Andrew Tsang. Well, he has been given the work for 2 years. He has been working day and night. Does he get OT? No. Okay, so that means he is only taking up the work voluntarily. No. It is really difficult to ask Andrew Tsang to take up the work as well. If this position is not created, you have other assistant secretaries who can help take up the responsibilities. Our colleagues seem to be confused. This Commission on Children works for children's well-being and interests. And just now, a question was asked about whether children's voice has been heard. And then children have no freedom to sing a certain song about the social incident. And then when children hung around on the streets, they were arrested. And then some questions were asked about undue arrest by police. Well, I think these questions are not related. We are not creating a position to arrest children and take them to the children's home. So, well, I think we are talking about two different things. Ip Kin Yuen is a representative of the education sector, and you are distorting the issue. I don't think you should always put the blame on the police officers blindly. Do you support children's welfare development? If so, well, they are in short of a person. I also don't support ready creation of positions. Well, if you don't think this position should be created, then okay, that's fine. I think the Commission on Children can then be discontinued. In the department, in fact, they have many people who can do the work. Then we can save $170,000. I think this issue is not related to arrest of children at all. I think you are just blindly accusing the police officers. Right, do you want this or not? This is the question. Well, if they are able to do the work since 2018 till now, I think, well, we can remain status quo. I think if you ask these questions, then that is up to standard. So these questions don't need to be answered. I think he has expressed his views very clearly. Okay, can you give me 10 odd seconds? Can you give me back 10 odd seconds? Okay, that's fine. Mr. Jiang Chongtai, please. Thank you, Chairman. Just now, I have been listening to the discussion for a few hours. Sorry. I really don't understand. What is the purpose of creating this position? Now, in the past month, 30 days, okay? How many cases of children's suicide were there? How many cases of suicide of children, suicide by children? I'm referring to the past 30 days. Well, please give me a hint. Chairman, children's well-being and children's lives Between these two, I think children's lives are the most fundamental. Yesterday, there was a 10-year-old girl who committed suicide. In June, there was a 17-year-old boy in Ma On Shan, two 10-year-old, one 13-year-old, two had written a letter, one did not. So within 1 month, 30 days, there are 3 cases, 2 P4 children and 1 S1 student who jumped from a height to commit suicide 2 to 3 years ago. This is a social discussion item, and in the past there were also social unrest and the epidemic, and then there were political discussions, as mentioned by Mr. Ho Kwan Yew and some other members. This is a fundamental problem. I'm not referring to children's welfare. Just tell me, after creating this position, will children be happier? Please tell the parents, in the past 1 month, 3 cases, 2 P4 children committed suicide in school. After creating this position, how can you solve this problem? Deputy Secretary, Chairman, Mr. Zhang, we were aware of cases quoted by Mr. Zhang. No matter whether this position is created, this is an important matter, and the Commission on Children will pay attention to it. In fact, this item is going to be the main agenda item for discussion in the coming meeting of Commission on Children, and relevant government departments will attend that meeting for discussion. Chairman, I don't want to just express my views. Regarding the establishment of the Commission on Children, well, when Carrie Lam assumed position, I think at that time that was only some window dressing attempt. And as a LegCo member, I think this item is a rare one in which some specific work can be done. We need to encourage and advise the young generation in Hong Kong not to sacrifice their lives hastily. As government officials, when you lead this commission, can you tell us what role can you play? In the past 1 hour or so, I really don't know what you are doing. If you tell me, yes, that is indeed window dressing. When Carrie Lam assumed position, okay, just tell us honestly. Let's be honest. Okay, money has been spent. However, there are conscientious people in society who have some expectations on this commission. There are people who still have fantasies about Hong Kong. They hope that something can be done. And please tell these people whether they should still have hope in you. I'm also referring to other members in that commission. Is there anything you want to say to those members? After creating this position, what kind of undertaking can you make about things that you can do for them? As I said just now, regarding children's suicide, in the commission, no matter whether we are talking about official or non-official members, well, everybody is concerned about it. So no matter whether this position will be created, it is something we will follow up. Just now, Mr. Zhang referred to some cases. The Commission had been aware of those cases, and in the coming meeting, actually we advanced the meeting date to handle the matter. And there were also some papers prepared. We'd like to come up with a direction.
Yes, please, go ahead. I hope that the colleagues responsible shouldn't just look at the children. And after the epidemic, we have received a number of cases which are related to domestic violence, and children are hurt. Because of the endemic, everybody is locked up at home. And I encountered 2 cases of domestic violence involving children 4 or 5 years old. Parents don't have work, and that is domestic violence. And after the economy is reopened, you may encounter more cases. Now, during the epidemic, what problems were there? You need to look into that. Mr. Wu Chi-wai, 3 minutes. Thank you, Chairman. Such a high-level commission on children is to consider recommending policies. If you make a recommended policy to a bureau or department for implementation, what is the process? What is the time needed? If you feel that something is good for children, when this goes into the bureau or the department, they say that they are not able to do it for one reason or another. What can you do to change the department or bureau which rejects this good proposal? I don't know whether you agree with this or not. Hong Kong is an over-regulated city. We have very strong intention to regulate and manage people. And many facilities are based on management and safety. Everything is put secondary to this. Many recreational facilities in the parks are too safe. On this point, has the Commission discuss this and find a suitable balance? 90% of public space is in the hands of the LCSD. The LCSD has adopted such an attitude that the facilities it provides is safe. And because of this, children are prevented from exploring and that has limited their imagination. I want to know whether you have discussed it, and I really want to know how you deal with this. When the departments come back, it's better to play safe. What will you do? The Deputy Secretary, I thank Mr. Wu for his question. With regard to the formulation of policy and then implementation, is hard to give a general answer. From the shortest to the longest time required, I try and give you some examples. In the past 2 years, the Commission has discussed various policies. Reference was made, or let me give an example. In mid-2018, the government conducted a consultancy study on the long-term development of small care for small children. And after when the research is being done, we consulted the Commission and incorporated their view. Last year, we announced the consultancy report, and the recommendations include subsidizing daycare, daytime child care center, increasing manpower, increasing subsidy to parents. Another policy decision is change or is based the provision of childcare centers on population, and we put it in the HKPSG. We completed the work in March this year. Now the formulation or incubation period was 2018, middle of 2018. Another example is preschool rehab pilot program. In 2018, we introduced that to the Commission. We took on board their views. In 2018, the pilot scheme, which had only 3,000 places, was regularized, and with the target, we set up a target, and that in the year 2022-2023, the number of places will be increased from 3,000 to 10,000. As for recreational facilities in the parks, in 2018, October, the issue was discussed. Now the LCSD followed that up in 2019. In October 2019, the administration announced that the LCSD, together with the RTSD, would adopt the inclusive design. That is to reduce restrictions and make the facilities more inclusive. More than 170 children's playground, where technically possible, will be reformed into inclusive parks. Dr. Fernando Chang is in the line. Who would like to ask further questions? I'll draw a line afterwards. Chen Ji-chun, Wu Chi-wai, and Fernando Chang. Mr. Chen Ji-chun, 5 minutes. The Commission on Children. Chairman, you should start the clock now, because the microphone wasn't on earlier. The Commission on Children was a cross-party item. We hope that the Commission can do something for the well-being of children. We have high hopes. In Para 7, it was said that the administration attached importance to the healthy development of children, both physically and mentally. And the Commission vision is to ensure that Hong Kong is a place to respect the welfare of children, listen to their views, and let all children to grow up healthily and happily and fully realize the potentials. It sounds good. I have been speaking up for the disadvantaged and fighting for their equal rights. Children, to a certain extent, can be regarded as the disadvantaged group, one of the disadvantaged groups, and they have to speak up for themselves. In fact, the whole of the people of Hong Kong are disadvantaged. Their human rights have not been respected. How dare we say to the children that we can fight for their interests? A child walking with his father going to buy a cup of smoothie, and his father was arrested by the police, and the child cried. That's tragic. Now, some a child reporter wanted to report on a certain scene, and he was arrested. And he cried after he was released from the police station. Now, I have no children, and I don't know how to teach children. But parents in the past did teach children that if they had any problem, they should seek help from the police. But how can you seek help from the police nowadays? The police, the image of the police has now become very controversial. How can the Commission be balanced and not biased and really understand the difficulties faced by children? Children are smart. They know what's happening. They ask their parents why that young person was arrested by the police and was beaten up by the police, and the young person was still bleeding, and the police officers kept beating him. The mother really can't, the parents really can't answer such a question. They cannot say that they really don't know how to explain that situation. The children of disadvantaged groups, including the ethnic minorities, the disabled children, are protected by law and also by some social mechanism. But for those of the groups, the minorities, the sex identity groups, and also their sexual inclination may be different from, and they encountered bullying in school, and they dare not raise the issue, because if they raise that, they will be laughed at, they will be mocked at, and there will be even greater bullying. I really hope that the Commission will also care for these children, for the disabled and for the ethnic minorities, because bullying them is wrong. Then you really don't do it, because otherwise you are not politically correct. But for the sexual minorities at school, and if they are bullied, they dare not raise their voice. Otherwise, they will face even greater bullying. And I don't know whether this item can be brought before the Commission for discussion. The Deputy Secretary, concerning Mr. Chan's view, we take note of this. In fact, at the ESC meeting May last year, raised a similar point, and we take note of his valuable view. At that time, the Undersecretary said that the Commission understands the various concerns of children, for children of such groups, and we have an open mind. The Commission has an open mind, and in considering its way forward, such views will be taken on board. Dr. Fernando Chow. I have two questions. I want to speak on the comment by Mr. Ho on Mr. Yip's case. He said there was no such case. I think he has overlooked that. I pay attention to one of the cases at a scene of protest. An underage boy was arrested, and under the Children's Protection Order, the child was put into a boys' home, or rather a children's home, and the parents wanted to take the child back, but the police refused. And only when the parents went to the High Court at that time, they were able to get back their child. I think Mr. Ho should dig into the records. As for the question raised by Dr. Chang on child abuse and also child suicide, the situation is very serious. Last year, the Ombudsman's Office issued a report in 2008 to 2018. Within 10 years, child abuse cases, the number of reports rose by 20%. The recommendation was that the government should consider mandatory reporting of child abuse. In fact, I have a private member's bill involving a mandatory reporting requirement. I have already submitted the bill to the administration. I want to ask the administration, now within the terms of reference, Number one, develop policies related to the development and advancement of children. With regard to child abuse and policies against child abuse or preventing child abuse, since the Ombudsman has already commented on that, and already there is a member who has moved a private member's bill. Now, Chairman, you've drawn the line. I really cannot have a second bite of the cherry. Can you allow me to complete my question? Now, let me turn to the representatives of children. In fact, over the years, NGOs have led children to participate in this discussion like a children's council. In fact, there's a group, Kids Dream. All the members are below 18, and they are discussing children's rights, and they do advocacy, and they express concerns. This proves that children under the age of 18 have the ability to discuss public policy and reallocation of resources. If the Commission on Children really wants to listen to the voice of children, you should appoint children to the Commission. Thank you, Chairman. Concerning Mr. Cheung or Dr. Cheung's proposal with regard to protecting children from abuse, at the end of last year, the Commission discussed the issue. The basis was that the Social Welfare Department and related government departments, they produce a guideline on multidisciplinary cooperation of departments to protect children. Views were discussed, and then views were also incorporated in the guidelines. As for allowing more participation by children, thank you for your advice, Ms. Dr. Cheung. I will talk to my colleagues. We will put in more efforts and work faster and harder to do something more. I really hope that members will approve this directorate post so that our colleagues will have adequate manpower and bring forward such work and do our work better. Next, the last one in the line, Mr. Wu Chi-wai. Thank you, Chairman. Every time when I look at the creation of permanent posts, they always say that they need the person urgently in order to get the job done. The point is, where is progress? Is there KPI? Are there KPIs so that we can help you in watching progress of work? Every time, such papers do not have KPIs. You may say that this will be done after 2 years. This is a kind of KPI framework. Or rather, the KPI is to work out a framework. Now you have 4 working groups, and in each working group you have many tasks relating to children's well-being. Do you have a timetable or a table? These are outstanding items, and after so many years, what will be the progress? Do you have such a table? Do you need this secretariat? You need. Do you have such priority lists? Well, you say there is a lot of work, but it's only empty words. And after many years, very little is done. That's why I am not happy with the civil service system. Now we have many committees, we have many commissions, yet the commissions don't have that statutory power, and therefore they rely on other departments to help. But other departments do not give priority to the demand of the commissions. And when it comes to a particular department, they will say, let's put it on the shelf.
So you tell me, for the task on the list with this colleague on board, when will you finish the preparation work, and how much time do we need to deliver a timetable for these goals? Yes. Well, I mentioned there's a 4 aspect in this work. As for the policy formulation and implementation, for the past 5 years, the Children's Commission have discussed 5 policy measures. We're not going to repeat myself in the previous questioning. In the future, we'll continue to press ahead. And for the past 2 years, if we can deal with like 5 examples, I believe the next 2 years we're able to deal with the same. With the directorate officer, we can really do more and carry more in depth and better. And to respond to Mr. Wu's question, and will be about the central data bank on children. The 21 non-official members and the stakeholder have huge expectations of this central data bank. Even though we do not have a directorate officer on board, as we know that there is such a keen demand, we have started work anyway. Well, the project milestones will be that in the 3rd quarter of this year, our appointed consultants will carry a large-scale public engagement exercise to get the stakeholders involved. And in our contract, it's stipulated that the consultant must discuss with our members on ways to engage the children. Our timetable that hopefully by next September we can complete this consultancy study. Allow me to go over in a bit. I deeply understand that some members see that the work duty proposed are far from satisfactory. We very much would like to do better, more, and quicker. We hope the members can give it a chance in approving the creation of this post. Within after 2 years, I believe that we're able to deliver a much better scorecard. We now do a 37A motion. We ring the bell. 5 minutes, please.
請打5分鐘。
Bell rung for 5 minutes.
Oh.
Bell rung for 5 minutes.
又係我嘅錯，但係要我哋盡晒力。你知就得，你知就得。如果係會係 pleasant surprise。
好啊，請你讀啊，請你讀啊。
Can you please read out? The Children's Commission to put the children's welfare at its heart and to consider public policy and resource allocation from the children's perspective. Unfortunately, the Commission do not have a children's representative, 18 or below. This committee urged the government to appoint no less than 2 children as members of this commission and establish a standing communication channels to allow children to speak out.
我哋係即將處理係咪同意？
We're voting on whether we'll agree to deal with the 37A motion.
現在開始表決。
37. Voting begins. Voting has stopped. Please show the results. 24 against. Well, it's a tie. Thus, this project proposal is not approved. Oh, sorry, this proposal is a tie. We now put an FCR 2021 2030-37. With those who approve, please put up your hand. The bell rung for 5 minutes.
好，各位，我哋即將投票就係咪支持？
We're now voting whether to create this permanent post of AO Officer Staff Grade C in the Labor Welfare Bureau to head a dedicated policy team for a newly established Commission for Children to take forward this agenda for the interests of children.
好啦，現在開始表決。
Voting begins. Voting is stopped. Show the results. 25 for, 17 against, no extensions. I declare the proposal approved. Next, we move on to FCR 2020-21, bracket 25. The Mr. approved the 4 new commitments for the Transport Department. And $108 million for the replacement of traffic control and surveillance system and radio communication system in the Aberdeen Canal. And $184 million for the replacement of traffic control and surveillance system in the Pt5 tunnel. And $10.25 million for the replacement of lane control signals and variable aspect signs of traffic control and surveillance system in the Chungkwon-O tunnel. And $13.9 million for the replacement of private automatic branch exchange system in the Eastern Harbor Crossing, Lion Rock Tunnel, Shengmun Tunnel, and Cross Harbor Tunnel. Please press the button if you have questions. Ms. Claudia Mo, 5 minutes. Well, it seems to be a very low cost affair. With so many tunnels, you wouldn't bother to have them have an introduction. So one moment you claim it takes tunnel, and now you have Aberdeen tunnel. Another one we talk about the TKO tunnel, and Shengmun tunnel, the Harbor Crossing tunnel. So even not bother with a introduction. So I pressed the button and I was called right away. Oh, never mind. Well, including Aberdeen tunnel, of this communication system you plan to replace, are they stand alone? Or connected to the transport department or the direct link to the police station? My question will cover all the tunnels in the paper. Well, Aberdeen Tunnel, Pt5, Chungkwon-O, and the Eastern Harbor Crossing Lions Rock Tunnel and Shengmun Tunnel, and Hongham Harbor Crossing. So what's the link up? PS for Transport Housing, Ms. Shirley Kwan. So I'll do a introduction. Well, the similarity in this document. So we're suggesting the replacement system already have exceeded the serviceable life, thus increasing the risk of system malfunctioning, which may undermine safety. And also the key components have also been outdated, and also being growing difficulty in maintenance and repairs. So from the cost-effective perspective, there's an imminent need to conduct such replacements. As for the system themselves, it's really a traffic surveillance and control system for the transport department. As for the traffic management, so it has nothing to do with the police force. While the daily operation are taken by the tunnel operators who do their own surveillance. And for example, if anything happened in the tunnel tube, they could able to take timely action. Well, for example, if the tunnel is congested, then they would arrive at the scene to deal with the congestion, so as to reopen the traffic lanes. I'd like to ask a matter of chronology for the Pt5 system that the TCSS have been used for 29 years before being used, and the TKO tunnel have been used for over 30 years, and now need a replacement. Of course, it's been aging really badly. And for the Aberdeen Tunnel, it's just been used for 15 years and still yet to need to be replaced. Well, I call this depreciation. So how do you decide? Should the Aberdeen Tunnel wait for another 15 years before replacing the equipment? Well, compared to your previous experience. Well, Ms. Kwan, well, for the equipment and the system, generally speaking, their cost-efficient life is about 12 to 15 years. For some system, as for how long can they last, very much depends on the factors in the actual operations. That's the difference. So back to my previous question. So the traffic pictures and the surveillance system had nothing to do with the police force. If the police force requested, well, in the name of national security, for the relevant footage, would you provide them right away?
我哋秘書長。
Who would answer the question? Now, for the traffic control and surveillance system, if it is necessary when there are traffic accidents or if there is investigation work or prosecution work, then based on actual needs, we will provide relevant information for the investigating agencies. So you will provide the information. They don't need to apply for warrants. You will provide the information when requested. We'll see whether there is actually investigation work about accidents. Well, it is not necessarily accident. If they say that there are criminal cases involved, time is up. Ms. Claudia Mo, I don't understand what you mean. Now, the details are in the paper already. You want the papers to be read out, Ms. Mo? At the beginning of the meeting, I think government officials should be given the chance to brief us. Well, this is not the usual practice, but from time to time, officials will give a briefing. So do you mean the transport panel? Well, not all the time. If the member, the councillor, is in attendance, then a brief explanation will be given. But the papers are very detailed. So you are at the top of the queue. So that's why I gave you the chance to ask questions. Well, I really need to clarify. Otherwise, it would be dangerous. No, I'm not blaming you. Mr. Chen Chi-yun, concerning Aberdeen Tunnel and Tate Can Tunnel, digital cameras and display equipment will be used to provide clearer images in order to enhance the efficiency of traffic surveillance. I want to ask about the principles. When it comes to clearer images, how will they help improve the efficiency of traffic surveillance? So the old systems give very blurred images, so surveillance cannot be done properly. Is that the case? In these two tunnels, concerning the resolution of the digital cameras, how high is the resolution? I think the public is worried whether the face of the driver and the passengers can be captured. So, say for example, who accompanied me, where can be checked. And then will the videos be stored or saved? If so, for how long? Who will have the right to retrieve the high-resolution video recording or images? Well, some people who are on duty may view those images for leisure. Well, in Taiwan, there is a film saying that the caretakers can retrieve the images for personal viewing. For Aberdeen Tunnel and Tate's Cairn Tunnel, how much money will be used to buy digital cameras? In enclosure 1 and 2, 3C states that the new system will use image to deal with or to detect cars being stopped because of accidents and so on. And signals will be sent to the traffic command center. So what kind of technology can make that possible? Is it true that CCTVs can already show the traffic accidents? When there are traffic accidents, if even cameras cannot capture the image, then that is problematic. Can CCTV also distinguish the vehicles that are being stopped because of traffic accidents? What is the difference from your proposal? This system does video processing or image processing. So is it true that automatic alert will be sent out when some vehicles are stopped because of traffic accident? Quite a lot of questions. Who will answer? EMSD representative. Let me first comment on the CCTV system. For Aberdeen Tunnel, 6.5 million. Tate Cairns Tunnel, because it's longer and more cameras are needed, so the cost is higher. The estimate is 10 million. Concerning resolution of CCTV, it is now up to high-definition TV resolution. Will the driver be recognized or captured? Now, the height of the tunnel is 5 meters, and the camera will be at an angle. So usually, the backside of the vehicles will be captured and not the driver and passenger's face. I don't understand why only the back of the rear of the car is captured. Well, in the tunnel, we will not capture the front image because at night, the headlamps will be on and it will be very bright. And if the light hits on the CCTV, then the aperture will contract, and so people in the control room will see a sudden change of illumination in the image, and that will affect their operation. So that's why we capture the rear part of the vehicles with no headlamp, and the image will be more stable. They will be able to see whether there are vehicles stopped in the tunnel, whether there are traffic accidents, whether there are objects falling onto the ground, and so on. So that is the reason why we capture the back of the car. And the video will be stored for 21 days. Only authorized people can view the video. There is password required, so it is encrypted. Just now, member asked about the traffic accident detection system. Now technology is very advanced, so there is the AI function. The AI function will process the image if there is traffic accident and if there are vehicles stopped, or if there are big objects on the ground, or if a car moves backward or is in a reverse mode, or if there is smoke or flame. Well, the system can detect it, and alerts can be sent to the control room. Then colleagues in the control room can review the CCTV images, and they can send colleagues to handle the emergency situation to avoid further traffic accidents. Mr. Jeremy Tam, 5 minutes. Thank you, Chairman. I want to ask more clearly. So there will be the surveillance system in Aberdeen Tunnel, Tate Cairns Tunnel, and Cheung Kwan O Tunnel. So there will be the CCTV capturing the back of the vehicles. Am I right, Chairman? Chairman, for these 3 tunnels, inside the tunnels, there are CCTVs showing the back of the vehicles to see whether there are traffic accidents. Right, I understand. So I just want to confirm whether this involves 3 tunnels. So in these 3 tunnels, the CCTVs will be replaced, not in Cheung Kwan O Tunnel, only Tates Can Tunnel and Aberdeen Tunnel. Then will such system be installed in Cheung Kwan O Tunnel? Chairman, in Cheung Kwan O Tunnel, there is such system already. And EMSD has done an assessment. The system can still be used right now. So that's why we are not seeking funding to replace it. Just now you said that the camera will only capture the back of the vehicles. It sounds reasonable. Now usually there are 2 lanes in a tunnel. That is a standard layout. So 2 lanes on each side. Okay, you will capture the back of vehicles. At night, during maintenance, you will close one tunnel. And the other tunnel will be for both ways of traffic. So how can you capture the back of vehicles? What will you do in that case? Chairman, that camera is fixed. It won't move. So at that time, on one lane, we will see the front of vehicles. On the other lane, back of vehicles. But at night, the traffic volume is smaller. The camera is at a height, and it is at an angle. Usually, it captures the top of the vehicle. It will not show driver's face. And because traffic volume is smaller, the cars can run at 50 kilometers per hour. It will go past the camera very quickly. So even when you review the image, you will find it difficult to recognize the driver's and passenger's face. At night, during repair and maintenance, one tube will be closed, and for the other tube of the tunnel, it will be for 2 ways of traffic and 2 lanes. So at night, it will be very difficult for us to see the driver's face. You said that the fronts of vehicles will not be captured because there is the headlight and you don't want to have sudden change of illumination in the image. So that's why you only capture the back of the cars. But during repair and maintenance, when there are 2 ways of traffic in one tube, you will capture some images of the back and some of the front of the vehicles. So when there is sudden change of lightness, how can you see what you want? You explained that with sudden change of illumination, the effect will be very bad. And you said that when there is one tube in operation with 2 ways of traffic, then you can't avoid that situation. So I find this problematic. Chairman, usually it is at night at around 1 a.m. when a certain tube will be closed. After closure, at around 4 a.m., it has to be handed back because in the morning there are more vehicles. Yes, I understand these. You don't need to explain. So there are only 2 to 3 hours time. During that time, number of vehicles is small. Besides, colleagues of the tunnel management company will work on site. And because we are talking about 2 ways of traffic in one tube, so the car speed will be 50 kilometers per hour or below. Yes, there is change of illumination, but the duration is short and there are people working on site. And so people working there will be more alert. Well, you won't work in an active tunnel, right? You have closed another tube, right? I think there will be people working in the tube with no traffic. Well, there are people working in both tubes. Of course, not in the middle of that operating tube. Some traffic cones will be placed. When there is single tube operation, this will be the special arrangement, right? when both tubes are in operation, there will not be this arrangement. In daytime, when there is normal operation, then we will not make this arrangement. We will not deploy people to work in the tunnel. Ms. Claudia Mo, 4 minutes. Thank you, Chairman. When some works are completed, especially in Aberdeen Tunnel and Tatescan Tunnel, the data communication network quality will be enhanced. So is that related to 5G? Right now we have 3G and 4G, and to what extent will the system be enhanced? Chairman, for the wireless communication network in Aberdeen Tunnel and Tatescan Tunnel, it is a digital communication network. It is not related to 4G, 5G. So in the tunnel, colleagues will communicate with each other via wireless. So they cannot contact on 4G, 5G. That happens only within the area of the tunnel. So they will discuss, they can communicate with one another and also with people in the control room. Does the same go for other tunnels? Yes. The wireless communication system will work independently in the tunnels for communication between the tunnel and the control room and the sub-control room. Among tunnels, they cannot talk to one another. So I have misunderstanding. I thought you are going to enhance the network quality so that when we are in vehicles listening to webcasts or talking with others, then the quality will be improved. When I am in vehicle, when I am listening to electrical webcast, sometimes the webcast will be disconnected. I thought it had to do with problem with the Aberdeen Tunnel. So after enhancement, I thought there will no longer be such disconnection. So it's totally not related. I think I have been misled when you said that the wireless communication quality will be enhanced. You won't respond to me? Chairman, if you are talking about electrical's webcast, if you view the webcast on mobile phone, then the 4G carrier or the future 5G carrier will need to do something with the digital network. EMSD and Transport Department do not operate these mobile networks. I know. I thought that when the network quality is enhanced by you, then members of the public's use of 4G can also benefit. There are often disconnections inside tunnels. Chairman, the network is the responsibility of the mobile phone operators. So Transport Department and EMSD cannot do anything with it. All over Hong Kong, the government also provides Wi-Fi. And there is the saying that you will help to lay optic fibers. If you are saying that this is not under the government, well, that is not a fair saying. The government should have a role. Otherwise, you don't need to offer free Wi-Fi. After these works are completed, well, we always heard about smart traveling. So what is the relationship? Who will answer? Chairman. For Aberdeen Tunnel and Tatescan Tunnel, after the replacement of the traffic control and surveillance system, various functions can be integrated on one computer platform. So colleagues in the control room can more easily control the signboards and offer information to drivers. There may be speed limit and also control signals regarding traffic lanes and also variable aspect size for drivers. So when these works are carried out, we will ask consultant companies to help us look into default traffic options so as to reduce congestion, and this can help drivers. Oh, time is up. Time is up. Please stop. You need to listen to the chairman. Well, your time is up. You should not go on speaking. Mr. Mok Nai Kwong, Chairman, you should allow professionals to complete his remarks. There are not many people waiting. Mr. Mok, when there are many people queuing, some member will accuse me for allowing more time to certain members, and it is not fair for those on the queue. So you have to understand me. I am taking a more comprehensive approach, but I think you need to be more patient. I do not do this all the time. Please make your point. I think you should be more tolerant. You should be more tolerant. I'm asking you to be a bit more tolerant and patient. I would like to follow up on Ms. Claudia Mo's question. Regarding 4G, 5G communication equipment, well, that is a commercial behavior. So can they be allowed to install more transmitter stations in the tunnels?
Well, if you ask them to use Wi-Fi, the tunnel is too short. If you are in a library, then you can use government Wi-Fi to do that. So you shouldn't use that in the tunnels. I think there are other communication possibilities, say radio reception. Ms. Mo may be referring to bad reception of radio signals. She may be listening to the radio. Is there any possibility to improve that? And I want to raise one point here. When we drive through the tunnels, there are broadcasts interrupting. Say, for example, I'm going to southern district, and then in the tunnel, when I'm going through Aberdeen Tunnel, I'm going to Aberdeen. You say that there is some kind of construction in another tunnel. I think that is irrelevant, and the broadcast is unnecessary. As for the digital system, what is the band that you are using? Is it an unlicensed band, or you apply to the telecommunication authorities to get a band to do the broadcast? Concerning your equipment, should the new equipment be compatible? And who are the from what countries do the suppliers obtain the materials? Now, first the broadcast. Say in Aberdeen Tunnel, it may broadcast the information of the Hong Kong Tunnel, Cross Harbour Tunnel, or Western Harbour Crossing, or Eastern Harbour Crossing, so that drivers can choose the suitable route. If Hong Kong Cross Harbour Tunnel is too congested, then people can divert to Eastern Harbour Crossing. Sometimes the two tunnels may have the same broadcast. Say I'm going to Hong Kong, southern part of Hong Kong, and you just broadcast a message concerning the routes to central Kowloon. That's irrelevant. As for the radio band communication system, the band of the radio communication system, we have to go apply from the OFSCA. As for compatibility, the old system and the new system may not be compatible. The old system may be analog, whereas the new system is digital. So you have to replace everything. Yes, we have to replace the whole radio communication system. As for the nationality of the suppliers, It's hard to say because it is an open bidding system. According to our record, we used to have brands from the United States and the European countries, according to my memory. You don't get you don't just get one or two suppliers. You have a choice. Usually is the European or American brands. They are more competitive. We do it by open tendering. They are more competitive, and the price is reasonable. You say competitive, that means you have wide choice. Yes, we have a wide choice. And they're mainly European and American brands. Mr. Uchiwai, 5 minutes. Thank you, Chairman. I have only 2 questions. The tunnels in the future may not charge any toll with regard to these traffic control and surveillance system. Will that be compatible with the new Cheongnam Tunnel? Will there be any difference if it is charging, toll charging or not? And also there are quite a lot of ducts. So you have a lot of ducting for the replacement of the cables and things like that. And also about the reception. Well, if you can put in one more cable, then that may help to boost radio reception. So are you going to make some improvement so that when we drive through the tunnels, we can have better radio reception? I think the tunnels have been using the systems for quite some time, and there is also requests for improving the lighting. Well, I don't want to see that you make improvement on the tunnels bit by bit. Is there any timetable for replacement of lighting system within the tunnels? Will you do that in tandem? Anyways, you will close down the tunnels. I don't know. I just want to know. And finally, according to the paper, as it is worded, it seems that quite a lot of time is put in planning and preparation. The actual works period is only 4 months. Does it take such a short time for the works? Is my understanding correct? I'm interested if you can shorten your planning and preparation time so that the works can be completed earlier. Let me respond to the toll charging and the replacement of the system, and then the technical aspect will be answered by the EMSD colleagues. We asked for funding for the replacement of the systems. It is not related to the other system, which is which allow charging without stopping. So the two are different. We replace the system. In different tunnels, we still need these monitoring and surveillance system. As for the FM radio reception, the EMSD will, or the EMSD does review with the operators of the tunnels on the performance of the radio, FM radio reception service. And if there is any problem, we'll ask them to replace the system. We will check whether there there is any possibility of improving the quality of reception. And after review, we will work with the transport department. No, my question is this. I believe many of us who drive through the tunnels have the experience that radio reception is not good. I just want to know whether you will take this opportunity to improve that as well, because you're doing a lot of works within the tunnels, and you're going to close down the tunnels, right? Don't you know that radio reception within the tunnels is not good? Chairman, we will review the radio reception within the tunnels and see if there can be any improvement and apply for funding if we need to. It's not in this project. No, not in this project. Is it possible to do it in tandem or synchronize the arrangement? There may be a chance to synchronize the arrangement because the cost for the radio system, FM radio reception system, is not very costly. We will talk to the transport department to see if that can be synchronized. Mr. Chen Chi-chun, Chairman, if this one can be decided today, do we need another meeting? No. Then let me ask a short question. There is one more system, which is the environment surveillance system. The Aberdeen Tunnel doesn't have this. I hope the administration will clarify this. For the Aberdeen Tunnel, the 11 million or $11.4 million. There is the traffic control and surveillance system, and also a radio communication system. But there is no environment surveillance. Now you say that if there is any reversion or a smoking vehicle or a fire in the in the tunnel, and then there will be a light flashing. But somebody should be watching the CCTV all the time and should be able to spot that. Now you have this system, the light is flashing, and the person on duty is reminded of that. I find it rather strange. Now concerning the environment monitoring system, why Aberdeen doesn't need that? Chairman, let me explain. As for the Aberdeen system, the environment monitoring system, at present is not included in this application because we have already applied funds for the replacement of that. It's difficult to buy the spare parts, and therefore we have asked funding for replacement. We are now doing the installation. Therefore, we have not applied for funding this time. The automatic automatic incident detection system. When an incident happens, and there will be a warning signal. We have dozens, if not over 100, cameras. So it is difficult to see what's happening on each screen clearly. If you are looking at one screen very carefully, then you will not be able to see another screen. So sometimes you may miss a certain scene on a certain screen. So if there is the automatic incident detection system, and if there is a flashing light or warning sign, then the colleague will be able to respond to the incident. and that will help to reduce the adverse impacts on the drivers. That's the benefit of the automatic incident detection system. The environmental monitoring system. We measure 3 things. First, visibility. If visibility is low, that will affect the drivers. Second, NO2. NO2 affects the respiratory system of drivers. And third is CO2. And if there is an accident, there will be a warning. Next, Dr. KK Kwok, 5 minutes. I will not block the passage of the proposal, but I find it strange. It is rather costly. $108.6 million, $184.47 million. And now for Aberdeen Tunnel, from 2015 to this year, altogether 15 years. Can you educate me on this? What is the lifespan of such systems? TASECAN, in comparison to TASECAN, the replacement is earlier. From 30 to 15. Was there a mistake at the beginning when you bought the system? Even the procurement of face masks had a problem, and you were cheated. So this is the second time concerning Aberdeen Tunnel. Was it the case? Were you cheated, and therefore this time can you be a bit smarter so that you will not be cheated? You buy the right system, and also a system with a longer span, say for example 30 years, same as that of the TASECAN Tunnel. And the third question is that when I drive through Cross Harbour Tunnel, Hong Kong, the system was rather bad. Is rather bad. They may need to inform the drivers. We are listening to the radio because we want to know the traffic situation. We are interrupted. The broadcast is very noisy. The broadcast by the tunnel is very noisy and annoying. And the one who is doing the broadcast was having a voice which was recorded about 50 years ago. We are called Asia's World City, but the broadcasting system is scary. It seems that we are 70 years back. Have you learned the lesson? Well, that's the poor situation of the CHC. Is it the problem of the system or the problem of the operator? A few years ago, the situation, the quality was not so bad. Well, I have not looked research into that, but I'm really scared. When I switch channel, I was scared why the quality is so bad. Let me speak on the Cross Harbour Tunnel, Hong Kong. The broadcasting system has already obtained funding for replacement. We've started the tendering exercise. We hope that after replacement there will be an improvement in quality. Does the operator have any responsibility? Can you ask them to improve the quality of the broadcast? Have any one of you heard about the broadcast? The system was given by the government to the operator. Please look into that. Check on the operator. Please go and listen. Let me explain the amount. the control and surveillance system. In comparison with Shingmun Tunnel, 2015, the contractor or the operator spent 87 million on the traffic control and surveillance system. Shingmun Tunnel 1.9 kilometers long. Aberdeen Tunnel 1.99 kilometers. The amount estimated by us is 86 million. Tasekan Tunnel about 4 kilometers, 140 odd million dollars. I think the cost estimate is reasonable. And we will conduct a tendering exercise. So at the end of the day, it will be market price. As for the lifespan, usually the span is 12 to 15 years. Why Tasekan Tunnel has a lifespan? The system of Tasekan Tunnel has a lifespan of 30 years is because it is a BOT project. In 2018, it was handed over to the government. So to save money, they will try not to replace the system as far as possible in order to save money. Before July 2018, when we took back the tunnel, we did an assessment on the control and surveillance system. And therefore, we went to the transport panel to seek support. And in March 2019, now you didn't focus on answering the question. You just kept talking. Dr. Kiki Kwok, 4 minutes. You understand that?
So I'm giving you another chance. So with this replacement exercise, will not be supplied inferior parts here instead. So you claim that the Tasekan operators would save money. Well, I suppose they did a good job with their resources. As a commercial corporation, maybe they spend more on maintenance. Or the system they've chosen, they're not subject to any procurement restrictions. They're able to procure high-quality equipment. Have you compared or review? I wouldn't say that you made a mistake or what. Have you can learn from the Tasekan Tunnel procurement? Or well, you can take a leave so that the system can last a bit longer to save public money. Well, for a system expecting to last for 30 years, it's quite difficult to buy in the marketplace. Well, for this kind of system, usually it lasts 12 to 15 years. Well, they are really made by different manufacturers, and also we'll try to put forward tender. Do your colleague would like to supplement? I think Ms. Mohat raised a similar question. For this kind of system, well, to be cost effective, well, usually they last around 15 to 15 years. In individual circumstance, the serviceable life could actually effectively operate and properly maintained. It very much depends on the operating environment. Well, if in a good operating environment, it could last for more than 15 years. Is there any way to improve your operating environment while the system can be more durable? So is it a government operation issue? Well, to plain is that well, you guys are probably rougher with the equipment, And if you take it with more care, it could probably last longer. I suppose that the government-owned tunnels with the similar system may not just restrict to 15 years, and it very much depends circumstances. Well, it probably can't last with foreign standards, or it is broken beyond repair. Well, we made this funding request. Well, when the professional department will inspect the system, and also depends on the running of the tunnels, when repairs where the critical parts are supplied in the market. If not, if anything happens, can you ensure the safety? So, well, that's why we are having this funding proposal to replace the system. May I suppose that you can supplement the right in writing later. Well, for the new round of procurement, any response? Just press. Can you write down in your procurement contract or when evaluating the tender? Well, you know that 12 to 15 years is really the general lifespan. Well, for the tenders, if you require the contractor or the provider can provide a 15+ year warranty, would that be more favorable for the condition? In this way, then people would come with a system that's more durable. Can you incorporate that in your tender document or contract? At least you give it a try. Ms. Kwok? I think while preparing the tender document, we can work out with the EMSD on what conditions can be incorporated so that our system can last for a bit longer. If so, well, we'll let you pass. Can you supplement to this committee later, after the discussion with the MSD, that you have also included that in your weighting? Well, that's something we are happy to hear as a professional department or as a gatekeeper ourselves. We'll see that durability is one of the factors. Well, referring to some countries' products are not too long-lasting. It's not derogative. Let's say in the mainland, well, let's say we buy aircon. Well, the street wisdom is that if we're from the mainland or the Malaysia or Japan, well, they probably stick to the main Japan. I suppose there's some differentiating factor for something cost similar but more durable. I just wanted to think about it. And please supplement writing. No further questions. I now put FCR bracket 2021, bracket 25 to put to a vote. Those who put up your hand. Objections? I see that this members present agreed in majority, and this is approved. Thank you.